Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as the Facebook and YouTube pages of the Virtual Cantina Network. We are live at these locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have not done so already, please remember to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live on YouTube. As always, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get some awesome Virtual Cantina Network gear, just simply go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Without further ado, my esteemed co-host and my brother, and we can officially say it, the countdown is on. My 2027 celebration buddy. We are headed to Los Angeles, California. We'll get to that in a minute. He is, of course, my brother, AJ. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. I'm trying to get us over on the on the Virtual Cantina Facebook page and our damn. Oh, there we go. Never mind. All right. All is right with the world. Continue. Okay.
Never mind. We're all good. Okay.
Yeah. All good. All good. All right. So killed a little bit of time. We'll post that to the Virtual Cantina Network Facebook page. So now we are on that page. Yeah. So, all right. Well, why don't we just jump right into this as I'm babbling away like a goddamn moron. The views of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. And there might be some bad language on our show. So if you're offended by that sort of thing, this might not be the show for you. But yeah, jumping right into what we wanted to talk about tonight. We just saw another celebration come and go. Of course, it was Celebration Japan this time, so they went international. And I got to tell you, man, first off, did you watch any of it live? Or strictly
I caught a few of the, what do they call that stage where they interview people after the panels?
The live stage.
Whatever that was. Yeah.
Star Wars Live.
Okay, yeah, Star Wars Live. Yeah. So I didn't catch any of the live stream panels or anything, but I did catch the interviews after the fact, and that alone was pretty cool. I caught the Ryan Gosling panel, for example. That one was kind of fun, just for the hype, because that was the one newest thing that we got. But
right.
Otherwise, no. You camped out, right? You were watching as much and everything as you could.
I can't say I was watching as much, but it was a 13-hour time difference. So basically, when the first panels went off at like 11 in the morning over there, it was 10 p.m. here. So I did log in. I caught some on Thursday night. I watched some of that. Which would have been the first day, because the international celebrations are only 3 days. They don't get Thursday like we do over here in the States. But yeah, I watched some on Thursday night, and then I definitely caught some on Friday night. And I stayed up until, God, what would it have been? 4:30 in the morning here on Saturday into Sunday morning, so that I could catch the closing ceremony and see where we were going to be in 2027, because I couldn't wait. I couldn't go to sleep and sleep well, knowing that Celebration was announced and I didn't know where it was. So I stayed up.
Yeah.
So so that was my thing. I did catch a couple of the panels live. I kind of scrolled back and forth from that to their YouTube channel and caught replays of some things. But I have to say, man, it will never, ever cease being the coolest thing ever, these celebrations. I mean, even just watching it online, I just get that feeling. It is just a feeling of solidarity, and you're just happy and positive, and you feel great watching Celebration and watching fans get into it. And it just that we've said it so many times on the show, because we've talked Celebration a bunch. We've been to all the stateside ones since 2010. Man, Celebration is just such a monstrous shot in the arm in terms of like positivity and fan love and franchise love and all this kind of stuff. It's awesome. And that's the reason I think why I get so excited the way that I do. And I love that they show a lot of stuff live. And even if we were only catching it on replay, I love that they do it pretty much immediately. It's not like they wait 2 weeks and, oh, here's what you missed at Celebration a couple weeks ago. No, it's the Star Wars live stage is live, around the world, and it's just great to see it and be a part of it as it's happening. We obviously don't get all the great reveals and stuff until later because they keep things exclusive for those people that traveled or bought tickets or whatnot, which is completely fair. We've talked about that as well. But it's more than enough live content to actually feel like you're a part of Celebration, even if you're all the way across the world. And I love that. I think they do an absolutely fantastic job of it. So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I agree entirely. I mean, there's nothing like being there live, of course, but anymore, there's so much stuff going on that even if you are there live, I mean, we've had this experience. You see what you can live, but then a lot of times you're still on your phone or checking a device of some kind to just like drop in on the live stream anyway, because you can't get near whatever it is that they're presenting at the time.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, that Star Wars live stage, like you see those crane shots of like the overhead and just the size of the crowd. And I was actually I was watching some of that coverage with Miranda, and because she has yet to go to a Celebration, and I was like, does this look like fun to you? Like, just check it, because like a lot of people would look at that crowd and be like, there's no way in hell I want any part of that. Like that's a throng of people that I do not want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, but even she was like, yeah, the energy there is kick ass. Like it's something to check out at least. Like you got to try it at least once just to see what it's like. And then I have yet to have anybody go there and then be like, no, thank you. I'd rather watch it on my browser than be there in person.
Yeah, dude, there's just an energy.
Mm-hmm.
There is just an energy to that convention that you just cannot replicate. I mean, you absolutely just cannot replicate it. And everybody's in a good mood. Everybody, except for that one jackass back in Orlando. Which we talked about him already. So, but dude, everybody is just in a fantastic mood. And it's just so cool to see, because you go there and you're never ever down. You're never ever bored. There's always something to do, always something to see, always someone to meet. Like, oh.
Yeah, when we were talking about how to like title this episode, that was one of my problems, was like, so the genesis of the whole topic tonight wasn't just let's talk Celebration, which, of course, obviously it's newsworthy. So of course we're going to cover it, but also, there's a vocal minority online that had bad things to say about it. Mm-hmm. And of course it's the online fandom that does that, because there's nobody in person that ever goes to one of these things and then says, that was terrible, and I'm going to let my voice be heard. Like the only complaints you ever get in person at a Celebration are basically against Reed Pop, because it seems like no matter how many times they run these things, there's always organizational problems.
Yeah.
And, this time was no different. But as far as like the actual experience of being there and the vibe of being in the room with all these fans and stuff, no one's ever in a bad mood from that. And that is what really like, fuels our Star Wars blood. Is being able to connect with other fans in real life and find out that like all the vitriol that we read online is really just a small bunch of keyboard warriors. And that's not a true representation of the fandom or, who those people are at their core,
100%. So we got some comments to get to here. Jim Meyer, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like a first timer. Jim Meyer says Star Wars Celebration is like a family reunion. It is. That is definitely the vibe. That is 100% the vibe, Jim. That you nailed it. Lucas Spoken, my good buddy. What's up, man? Says hello there. Hello there. Love all the Celebration news. Also, Andor season 2 is off to an incredible start. We could talk about that too, but yeah, Celebration news is great. Andor, solid. I have some thoughts on that we can get to.
That was one of the hardest things about going live tonight is, we've got 3 new episodes of Andor and Celebration since our last podcast. What do we do?
Well, I've only gotten to see 2 of the episodes, so I have to watch the 3rd one after this. So, John Phillips, always great to see you, man. He says, didn't watch. All I know I got from Rebel Force Radio and here. There you go. All right. I'd say we're a little smaller than Rebel Force Radio, but I appreciate you tuning to us. So there you go. Miranda,
we did hang out with them at Celebration Chicago, so we can call them our close personal friends.
We almost had to drive Jimmy Mack back home. Jimmy Mack Jimmy Mack lives maybe like 30 minutes from where I live, and there was a huge snowstorm on that Saturday, and there was a potential for canceled flights. And so we almost had to, not Jimmy Mack, Jason Swank, excuse me. Yeah. We almost had to drive Swank back here, which would have been pretty hilarious. So Miranda, always great to see you. She says, you're surrounded by all the coolest people who love the same thing you do. How could it be terrible? Yeah, I mean, and that's what it is. Like I say, there was one guy one time that tried to start a fist fight with me at the hotel bar in Orlando. And it's because he was being a dick to one of the actors. And we were hanging out with the actor and just bullshitting, and we weren't even talking Star Wars. It was just like he was a friend of a really good Star Wars buddy of ours, and this dude just started haranguing him with questions, and then there was some alcohol imbibed in, and
yeah, as cool as the fandom is, there are still drunken assholes.
Yeah, although I did get off a good one-liner
across that,
Yeah, right. I'm still proud of my one-liner, though. He's like, I've kicked people's asses on 7 different continents. What have you done? And I said, I'm going to kick one guy's ass on this continent in a minute. Which
some quick goat thinking.
Exactly. So, but in any case, yeah, it's just, it's 2 years away, but I would highly recommend you guys, if you're not going, to tune into some of the live coverage. It's just, not to use like a cool kid term, it hits different.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun when you're experiencing it as at the same time everybody else is. So it's just a total blast, and especially going. I mean, if we've said it once, we've said it a million times. We cannot recommend enough, going to a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's indescribable. It's like we've had friends go for the first time since we've been. We're like, oh, dude, I can't even tell you, like you have no idea how cool it is until you're there.
And that is one of the coolest things is, this started as a fan convention. There was no official involvement whatsoever.
Yeah.
And as much as it is, of course, now, it's been taken over and it's completely run by Disney and Lucasfilm. It's still the fans that make the event. Like, they could do all the announcements and panels they want, but it's really the people that you meet in all the hangouts and seeing the cosplay and just like the energy of everyone who attends, not the people putting it on, that really make Celebration special.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree, man. So yeah, guys, go to Celebration, but just do me a favor and wait to book your hotel till after I get mine. So yeah, so as we mentioned, it is going to be April 1st through the 4th of 2027 in Los Angeles, which was a little bit of a surprise. And by a little bit of a surprise, I mean a huge surprise to pretty much everybody, because we were all under the impression that, just like, the previous ones, it was going to be in Orlando or it was going to be in Anaheim, and it's neither. So I'm very
surprised
interested
to be sure,
see...
but an unwelcome one.
Yeah, exactly. Very well played. Yeah, I'm very interested to see why it's in LA and not one of the parks. I understand that Florida's got the whole political thing going on with Disney and a pissing match with the governor or whatever. I thought that got resolved, maybe. So I guess I understand California, but why not Anaheim? It's kind of interesting. And I have to say, the hotel situation is already crappy. So, I mean, I looked up hotels and there's one across the street from the convention center. Everything else is blocks away. So it looks like ingress and is it egress? Ingress and egress might be a bigger pain in the ass than usual. So
yeah, we thought Chicago was an odd choice for that reason, with McCormick Place being kind of isolated there with the highway running right by it, but
Yeah.
and nothing like LA.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But oof.
Yeah,
I want something within walking distance. I do not want to deal with that LA traffic. No way.
No, I mean everything is within walking distance. It's just it looks like a lot of the hotels could be a lengthy walk. So it's really kind of one of those things where it's not like if you're staying at the Rosen in Orlando, which is attached to the convention center, like where you can literally just, I want to go back
bridge.
I want to drop stuff off in my room. You can get there and back in like 10 minutes, No, this is kind of involved, it looks like. So it definitely an interesting choice. And it'll be Los Angeles, man. Really? That's my only complaint. Like, I'm not going to complain because it's Star Wars Celebration and it's the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. So, it's going to be potentially the biggest one they've ever done. But
it better be
LA.
Come on now.
LA. Like, why? The only thing I could think of, a lot of people have mentioned that the Lucas Museum's out there. So maybe it has a tie-in with that. So, now the one good thing for us is, or at least for me, I should say, I can't speak for the rest of the people going on our trip with us, but whenever we've gone to Anaheim, we've ended up in LA first for like a day or a night or something to kind of meet up with, my buddy Mike Stang and check out the Sunset Strip and whatnot. At least, with it being in LA, we can do those things now. And it's only about, I looked it up, it's about a 15-20 minute drive to the Sunset Strip. I can actually go to a concert at the Roxy or at the Whiskey A Go-Go or something like that. Can hang out at the Rainbow on like a Thursday night or something when, all the rock stars might be there or whatever, just kind of like, celebrity watch or something. So at least that'll be interesting. And that Star Wars bar, what's it called? Scum and Villainy. That's there.
Yeah, Scum and Villainy Cantina. Yep.
So we can go see that. As much as we don't like Los Angeles and how expensive everything is, it's going to be awesome regardless. So
yeah,
Miranda,
we are not going to be those people that actually, complain about Celebration like we were just talking about.
Yeah, right. We're only complaining about the location just because it's pricey and, like AJ said, shitty traffic. Miranda says, hopefully it'll be decent weather and not too hot at that time. Miranda, if it's anything like it was in Anaheim back in 22, oh my God, that weather, if you would literally like draw up, here's what I want the temperature and the weather to be every day. It's the weather there still would have been better what you would have drawn up. It was like 71 with a light breeze and sunny skies every single day that we were in California. And it was in April last time of 2022. So if it stays the same, then we should be pretty good. But boy, if it rains and people have to make that walk, holy shit! Can you imagine? Whoo! Maybe maybe we'll see some Celebration goers in a bad mood after all. You never know.
Yeah, California's always in a drought. I wouldn't worry about
it. Right, there you go. They need the rain.
By the way, I just checked the daily average temperature for April 1st in Los Angeles, and it's 71 to 74 degrees.
God, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Gone are the days of the 92 degrees and in Orlando humidity, apparently.
Yeah. It's still a bit of a head scratcher, though. Like, if you've already done 2 in Anaheim and you've got a theme park literally across the street from the convention center, why, if you're like, hey, we need a change of scenery, we've done Anaheim a couple of times now and we've done Orlando a couple of times, let's go somewhere else. Oh, well, how about like 45 minutes north?
Yeah.
You got the whole country to pick from and you just go like an annoying bit of drive away.
Well, and the other part of it is that, Chicago got some pretty good reviews from people, at least, the people that we've talked to. And, the McCormick Center is the largest convention center in the country, and it's centrally located. It's not, like LA, like people, we got our buddy, Thrasher coming from Baltimore. It's almost entirely across the country. Pretty much the entire distance of the country he has to travel to get there, as opposed to half if he's going to Chicago. So you know, and regardless of our bias for Chicago, because it's drivable, it's like 5.5 hours. It just would seem to make sense to have something a lot more centrally located. And Chicago's still a major city
to handle this.
Denver
would be cool because, you know, 50th anniversary. Okay, so that's a major milestone for Star Wars. And of course, Denver was the genesis of Celebration. So it'd be cool to like go back to the original site, so to speak. I mean, we're not going to bust out the tents anymore and partying in the mud. But you know, it'd be cool to go back to where Celebration began to celebrate Star Wars 50th, you know. It would be something different.
Maybe they don't have, you know, the size capabilities to handle something like that.
I mean, their airport is massive. I know that much, but I don't know what they're set up with as far as like hosting conventions and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. Like I say, it's interesting that it's not more centrally located if it's not going to be at one of the theme parks. But, you know, I personally, though, you know, again, we'll move on to some actual news and stuff like that here. But man, I'm just thrilled that I know when it is. I'm like, I know it's like childish and like makes me like a total nerd on a different level, but I'm already counting down. You know, I'm like, I should say, we have the best goddamn time at this thing. And it's, you know, it's one of those things like, you know, if you take a trip where you got some big event coming, you can build it up in your mind so much that it kind of is a letdown when you get there. Celebration is never a letdown. And this will be what, our 7th one? Because we did 2010, 2012, 2015, 17, 19, 22. So this will be our 7th celebration. And even though it kind of feels like we've seen all the vendors, you know, that there are to see, I mean, there's really not much more we could see in terms of like, let's buy some Star Wars crap, really. But there's always something that happens. And new people to meet, and the panels are just cool. And so I look forward to it, and it's, you know, it's like a goal. Okay, I got to save money. You know, oh, I want to lose weight. People do that. Like I would love to say I do that, but you know how that goes where I'm concerned. And you know, oh, when's it going on sale? Because you got to get in the queue right away to get a ticket, or get in the queue right away to get a hotel room. It's a blast, and it's something to look forward to that, you know, is not going to let you down. So, but that having been said, why don't we get to some news? And I'll let you lead, because you wanted to get some news in, but you also had some thoughts about some commentary we saw online about the event itself, Celebration Japan. So let's get into that. I'll let you take it away.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm going to frame the news based around the online criticism, because this is one take that I couldn't believe actually made it out there. It was posted on another podcast and then got a lot of support in the comments of that podcast saying that this celebration felt light on news. And I went back through and I tried to, just off the top of my head, without actually looking anything up, I just tried to say like what I could remember was announced. And by my count, we got updates or announcements on 2 movies, 2 live action shows. I was wrong in my text message, by the way. 5 animated projects. 5. We got 2 video game announcements and updates, and I don't even know how many books and comics stuff as well. So how is this light on news? Like the fact that I tried to do the math and then forgot things because there was so much to tally up. I'm like, this is as loaded as a celebration gets. And would you want any more? Like, there's stuff. The one thing we were going to start with our celebration talk about was what wasn't discussed, like what was conspicuous by its absence. And I guess that might be a good place to start. Amongst all this other stuff that they crammed in there was like nothing for Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary.
That is a dropped ball. Boo! Boo!
Well, how do you feel about this? Because based on who was in attendance, from the, Star Wars production side, and who wasn't, what would you do for a Revenge of the Sith celebration if all you've got is Hayden Christensen? You don't have Ewan McGregor. You're never going to get Natalie Portman. Ian McDiarmid wasn't there, so you've only got like one actor that actually showed up in the movie. So how much can you really do?
Well, they could have had me there. I would have hosted the panel with Hayden Christensen and Tim Morrison and whoever else. And I would have just walked around and had them describe why Revenge of the Sith is just so fucking great.
Okay.
That's, that's me. But no,
guys, this is exactly how our podcast topic discussions go.
Yes. Right. No, I mean, and that makes perfect sense that you don't have two of the big three, actors in there. You don't have the Emperor, you don't have Obi-Wan. You've got, you can't even count Padme, you can't even count Natalie Portman because she'll never show up. So that's a thing. But I think you could have still celebrated it somehow. They've got a print of the movie in 3D. They could have shown that. They branded everything with, they had specially branded merch for Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. They could have done that. I mean, there's a number of things you could have done without having a panel. It wasn't even barely mentioned. I think they talked about Hayden Christensen's birthday more than they did, the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're actually giving it a theatrical re-release, and it was basically absent from celebration.
I don't get it.
What a weird way to play it both ways, like to ignore it but also celebrate it at the same time.
Well, and they can still have other panels. Like, Doug Chang, we saw him do a panel about the art of the Phantom Menace. So do art of Revenge of the Sith. Do things like that. You can have Hayden Christensen talk about it. You can have him do a solo panel, like how like Mark Hamill did, or has done, I should say, like Carrie Fisher did when she was around. Have him do a panel like that talking about the movie, because he's got a very unique perspective on this now, because the prequels were all just completely crapped on. Now they've had this resurgence to now it's, just like we always kind of figured would happen. Now everybody loves them and they're nostalgic and all this stuff. And, he came back at the last celebration in 22 and the fan reaction just absolutely blew his mind. So he worked on the movies, Clones and Sith, kind of disappeared from Star Wars completely because of all the, all the dummies that were crapping on it. But now all of a sudden he's back. Not only is he in Star Wars, but Celebration 22 got to show him, hey, man, we love you. Like, all those idiots online that's not the majority. That's a vocal minority. And so he's got multiple levels of perspective from which to draw to do a solo panel about Revenge of the Sith. I just, and dude, here's another thing. Where were all the solo panels of anybody? You didn't have a Warwick Davis. You didn't have Anthony Daniels. Like, all these people that normally do these panels, like they did not have those.
I think that was one of the supporting details for the criticisms of this celebration, was that the panel set was kind of meh, just a little mid.
I was underwhelmed, I have to admit, when I saw the schedule.
But also, I don't know, like, it's tough because they've done so many celebrations now. How many times can you walk it back and do another panel about insert actor here or movie here or whatever, So I get why it's hard. The more they put this on to come up with worthwhile topics, like the sequels, one, weren't well received enough, and two, aren't old enough to have like retrospectives yet. But they could have done like a 10 years since The Force Awakens. They could have done something like that. But again, nobody from the sequels wants to show up. Like, they all got a bad taste in their mouths. Daisy Ridley's the only one who's even playing around with it, and they can't get a script settled on. So who knows when we'll see her back. But
yeah, I don't know. But I think that kind of plays into the point, though, what you just said. they have a hard time coming up with panels. Well, the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith gives you an excuse to say, oh, well, here's the art of, or here's the storyboarding of, show some behind the scenes or something. Like those are panels that you can't do at other celebrations. You're not going to go, hey, it's the 26th anniversary of blah blah blah. Like,
Right.
So
yeah.
I mean, take the opportunity to throw some different stuff out there. That's what I would have done. But honestly, dude, I mean, let's tell it how it is. The international celebrations have always been considered light compared to the ones in the States. It's always been this way.
True.
This is nothing new.
True. I mean, Star Wars is a global phenomenon, but its home base is America. The best attendance is always here, and it's easier to get everybody to something in the States. If you want people from Star Wars to show up at Celebration, piling them onto an international flight that's 8 hours plus is not a good incentive.
Yeah.
So I can see why, it'd be hard to get people to commit to these sorts of things.
Yeah. John Phillips says, all it took was the sequel trilogy being worse for the prequel trilogy to be respected. And I like the prequels. So he's a prequel fan, but he's still saying the sequel trilogy was not great. Yeah, it's it's going to be very interesting to see how the sequels age and if what they start doing at celebrations at 20 years, when they hit these anniversaries, because how are these going to age? That's a whole topic for a whole nother show for me. But I hate to say they're not. The concept of them is not aging well with me. As we get further and further away from them, they're feeling more and more like that last Hobbit movie. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it, mm-hmm. Battle of the Five Armies or whatever? I'm like, what is this? So kind of like unnecessary, unfortunately. So I think it was a missed opportunity. But I still enjoy them. But we'll see what happens in time, because people never thought the prequels would be accepted.
Yeah. But let's go through what was announced, because there was a whole lot of stuff, and not all of it was expected either, which is nice.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the main headliner. It was the day one news. Star Wars Starfighter.
Yep. So
we've got a title for the new movie that is coming out. They announced the release date. It's in 2027. I forget. Did they say it was May?
Yeah. That and Mandalorian and Grogu are both May releases.
Yeah, okay. So May 2027, we get this new movie starring Ryan Gosling called Star Wars Starfighter. And rumor has it there was I think some starship designs were shown during the panel, but nothing else really. It hasn't, started filming or anything like that. So there's nothing to show yet, but they officially announced it and a release date, and they did an interview afterwards. So I'm hoping that this one fares better than Rogue Squadron. What are your thoughts on Ryan Gosling being part of the Star Wars universe?
I'm totally fine with it. It's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually thinking about this in the car the other day. I forget what I was listening to, but something Star Wars related, and somebody mentioned something about the actors. And it was George Lucas's thing to get unknown people and kind of develop them himself, kind of a thing. But I have to say that having these established actors, even though their face, and the whole concern previously was, if I see them, I'm going to think of this other character they play. I haven't had that, and I think it's helped them. I think it really has helped to get actors with a certain gravitas, believability, ability. So I enjoy it. And I've seen some people are kind of questioning the Ryan Gosling thing, or did I just get his name wrong?
No, Ryan Gosling.
Okay. There we go. But Miranda,
and this is exactly who gets pulled in.
All about Gosling. Yep. Yeah, I've liked the
girlfriend or your wife or both of them aren't into Star Wars. This is how you get them into Star Wars.
Yeah. John Phillips says Levy and Gosling should read or listen to the Rogue Squadron books for research. Yeah, good call. Good call, man. Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's good. I've liked the movies of Ryan Gosling's that I've seen. I think he's a good actor. And I don't understand people getting upset already because there's been some other actors that were pulled into the Star Wars universe that we thought, how the hell is that going to work? And it turned out to be amazing. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really, really cool. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, any actor who's worth a damn should be able to jump into different genres and franchises and, quote, disappear into the role. So, yeah, when this movie comes out, I'm not going to be thinking about, The Notebook.
Right. Well,
and if I am, then he ain't doing his job.
Well, maybe they can get Rachel McAdams in here too. That would be cool.
Hey,
I like her.
Not bad.
Great actress. So yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it's great. We'll get somebody established. And honestly, I think they kind of need it because they're gonna need a little bit of a comeback, I think, in some fans' eyes. Because either the fans like us that were, well, no, I could say it's pretty much everybody, but I know there's two factions of fans, like people like us who were pissed off that they said that Solo was a flop and stopped making movies, and then teased us with, oh, we got this movie, no, we got this trilogy, no, we don't. So I'd like to see them kind of give me something. Like I've dedicated my life to this pretty much, like, and you're jerking me around, like this needs to be good. Or the segment of the fans that hate the sequels, and they just think Star Wars is woke and shitty and they can't put out anything good. So I think they need to put out something that kind of like brings those people back into the fold as well. So I think there's a lot riding on this, because I think unless they really shit the bed with the Mandalorian and Grogu, that one is pretty much guaranteed to be a hit because everybody just wants to see Mando and Grogu on the big screen. So this has got a lot riding on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned the delay in movies. 2019 was The Rise of Skywalker. We've had none of them since. A few of those projects have wound up on Disney Plus's TV shows, but Kenobi being one of those, for example. But clearly they were gun shy about going back to theaters because of the reception of Rise of Skywalker, and then now they're gun shy of Disney Plus because it's just not the revenue generator that they had hoped for. So now they're trying to go back to the big screen. And this, like you said, Mandalorian and Grogu is already an established property at this point. You got 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and a couple appearances in the Book of Boba Fett as well.
Yeah.
So it's not new. I mean, it's going to be a new chapter of the story, but it's not like they're taking a big swing on that one to go like, boy, I hope people like Din Djarin. Like, yeah, he's good. You're fine.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is I hate to say brave, but based on Rise of Skywalker again, this takes place, they said, 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker. So now we're moving even further forward in the timeline. So they don't have it's not an interquel to like lean on, we know what happened in the past and where it's going. It's like, no, now we're just in uncharted Star Wars timeline territory. So they get to actually clean slate it and come up with whatever they want. And hopefully serve as a jumping off point so they can start telling new stories again. I feel like, especially after Rise of Skywalker, everything else that we've gotten has been in some way, shape, or form derivative of previous stories.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like I say, I think they have a unique opportunity to kind of draw back in the fans that were completely turned off by the sequels. The sequel trilogy, as we've said, I think ad nauseum, so I hate to say it again, but it suffers from lack of cohesion. It's not a cohesive story. It's like what are we doing here? But I think there's a lot of elements that are very, very, very good in the sequel trilogy that can lend themselves to stories down the road. So I'm kind of hoping they do lean on some of the sequel stuff. I've said before, I hope they start writing stuff that makes people enjoy the sequel trilogy, people that didn't before. I think that'd be awesome. So maybe this is the start of that. Personally, I'm a big fan of bringing Rey into things, and I know everybody's like, "Oh, I'm sick of the Skywalker saga." I'm not. That's the backbone of Star Wars. So I have no problem if it's Rey Skywalker restarting the Jedi Order, which we know is going to happen in some form or fashion. They're not just going to have Rey out there flipping burgers. She didn't just open a coffee shop and retire as a Jedi. So
Well, what do you think about that complication? Because we've had this Rey movie in the works for how long now, and they're on the 4th or 5th writer, and I wish they wouldn't publicize all the behind the scenes details, because I'm sure there's a lot of movies that have turmoil, and if the fans were aware of it when it happened, they'd be shaken by everything. Think of all the great movies from back in the 80s, for example, that you watch the behind the scenes now, like Back to the Future. Back to the Future didn't even star Michael J. Fox.
Yeah,
they were in front of cameras and shooting most of it, and then they're like, you know what, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that happened today? Like, everyone would be like, fuck this movie. There's no way in hell this is going to. Clearly, they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
But,
well, John Phillips.
But anyway,
Rey never failed. That didn't help the story. Yeah. Well, again, a whole nother conversation, John. But
so far the Rey movie is failing, though. So that's the thing. But anyway, what we have heard so far, if it's still the story, is that the Rey movie was going to pick up basically in real time years after the sequel trilogy, right? It's going to be like 10 to 15. Yeah, it's going to be like 10 to 15 years after, which would put it after Starfighter now. So while the Rey movie has been stuck in development hell, this new movie apparently is moving forward that jumps it in the timeline. So now the Rey movie has to be on the same page, no pun intended, with the script from Starfighter.
Well, maybe that's why it's running into problems, because they got these other ideas. Maybe it just needs a rewrite because they're, other things change directions. That's the one thing I will say, is that as much as people are worried about this Rey movie because it, all of a sudden it's kind of like gone, radio silent, you can't announce a Rey movie and then go, we're not doing it. That you can't do. But for something like, Rangers of the New Republic or whatever it's called, or, Rogue Squadron or something like that, these other things that they're talking about, we don't know what that's about. It's a concept. It's like, hey, here's these new people. Like if they would have announced Skeleton Crew, and then all of a sudden, like a year, like, it's not happening. You're like, well, what the hell was Skeleton Crew? Rogue Squadron.
Well, it kind of felt like that, didn't it? Because I think that came out a year after it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm. It did, I think. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but I can't think of it. But in any case, you can get away with that when someone doesn't know what the project is about. But when you take one of the central characters to the entire franchise, and that eventually she's supposed to resurrect the Jedi Order, you can't just announce a movie and then go, you know what, that's not happening. You can't do that. That is where you get a fan revolt. So that is just something you can't do. So I don't worry about that movie. It'll happen. It's just a question of when. And again, maybe they're doing rewrites based on other projects around it that'll have to, tie into it.
Well, it dovetails nicely into that Star Wars celebration in Los Angeles, doesn't it? By the time that thing comes around, we'll be a month out from having the movie, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get some good looks at it then.
Yeah. And if they are doing the Rey movie, then that's going to be something, that they would promote there.
Mm-hmm. And that, back in the good old days of Celebration, like when the sequels were coming out, that's kind of what it was, right? Like there was, whatever year it was, there was the hype for the movie that was about to come out, and then there was also the teaser cycle beginning for whatever was coming after it.
Yeah. Have we, what? I was thinking about this in real time just a second ago as you were saying it. Have we ever had a celebration happen where they're plugging a movie and the movie comes out that quickly after? Because I know for something like Rogue One back in, what was that, 2016 or 17?
Solo has been the only movie in the Disney Plus era that released in May. Everything else has been December.
Yeah. So the celebration we went to where they were talking about Rogue One, was there a celebration I don't think there was, but in any case, the years that the movie came out,
well, it was London that year.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, but
Which
it's
kind of
still
made
been
sense. That's where a lot of the filming took place. But
sure. But yeah, I mean, there's at least been a few months of space. This one is not, like you just said. It's going to be like a month and a half. So that's pretty interesting because the thing will basically be in the can pretty much.
It better
So
be at that point. I mean, I know with digital they can edit things like up to the day before it starts airing in theaters, but still, let's hope that's not the case on this one. I really hope they've got their shit together.
Yeah, that's
going to be really need to
interesting.
nail it. They need to recover some goodwill from the fandom with all the stuff that's been announced and hasn't materialized or been delayed or changed or
Yeah, that'll make for a cool celebration because you'll have that movie, and then you would think they would either announce a 2029 movie or they would have already announced a 2028 movie, and then we get some sneak peeks on that. So this could be pretty huge in terms of what they'll have to cover. So, yeah, I'm pumped up, man.
Yep. So the one sure thing we have on the movie news is, of course, Mandalorian Grogu. We know that that's coming out next year. Filming, they didn't say filming is complete yet, right? I don't think they've wrapped filming on that, but it's a thing that exists. It's not vaporware. It's not just promises and Patty Jenkins in an X-wing. So
yeah,
we're doing better than the previous movie attempt. So that part is cool. Sigourney Weaver came out and talked about that a bit, which was really cool. And Pedro Pascal in one of the weirdest outfits I've ever seen.
Right, that was dumb, wasn't it? I saw these people, and even when I was podcasting with the virtual Cantina people last Friday, they're like, oh, they were all about it, and I had to keep my mouth shut because I was like, that looks ridiculous. Like, it doesn't even look stylish; it just looks kind of ridiculous. But that's just me.
Yeah, he was wearing like a Princess Bride blouse and shorts and like rain boots or something, right?
Yeah, it was definitely odd.
Miranda chiming in right here. Those boots were made for walking.
Right. Exactly.
I was like, yeah, did that guy lose a bet? I mean, what the hell?
Lose a bet. Nice. Yeah. So
I'm hyped for this one, honestly. Like as hit and miss as season 3 of The Mandalorian was, it's weird to say that like The Mandalorian is the good old days of Star Wars at this point, but it started in 2019, so it's been around long enough now and it's been gone long enough now that people are starting to miss it.
Yeah, I'm nervous for it. I'll be honest. I'm hoping that it. I just love the long form storytelling that they're able to do with these characters, and to cram it into a 2-hour movie and go, okay, they're done. Okay. I just feel like there's unfinished business because you introduce Luke Skywalker, for Christ's sakes, and Grogu decides to turn his back on the Jedi Order. Okay. I just feel like there's a lot more meat on the bone than to say, here's a 2.5-hour movie. Okay, we're done. So hopefully this is just like a midpoint, and then the story is going to continue in future seasons of the show. But I have you read anything about whether or not this is like the end of the line for them or not? I don't recall if that's the case or not.
The only thing that I've heard is that this is instead of season 4. That doesn't mean that season 4 isn't happening, but obviously it's going to be a lot longer since they just put out a movie. So I don't know. The other thing that was confirmed is this is not the big culminating movie that Dave Filoni's been talking about, where he wants to bring in Ahsoka and what would have been the pieces of Rangers of the New Republic and anyone from Boba Fett and Mandalorian. So that movie is still coming at some point. And the question is when, because Ahsoka season 2 doesn't hit until next year.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if there's anything else that needs to come out before that movie to set the stage for it. And with the film slate, now having a 26 and 27 movie, now we're looking at like 2028 at the earliest for that thing.
Yeah.
And yeah. But the price tag is only going to go up because Pedro Pascal, is just getting hotter and hotter, and which means the paychecks get higher and higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens. Like Star Trek had this problem where they cast Michelle Yeoh in one of their series, and then she goes off and wins an Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then they're like, well, crap, we had a whole series we were going to put you in, and now we can't afford you.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Sorry about
So
that.
that became a movie all of a sudden too. They're like, okay, look, we'll get one thing out, and then we can't afford you anymore. Sorry.
So our good friend Chastity Crawley checking in. Great to see you, Chastity. She says, really late, but I have a good reason. Okay, so it's a good tease, a good segue. So tell us what your good reason. How dare you be late to the Nerf Herder Council?
Right. Way to bait us there, Chastity.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about Mandalorian and Grogu. I know I'll enjoy it. And it's going to be awesome to see a Star Wars movie on the big screen again. A new one, I should say, because you and I are going to see Revenge of the Sith on Friday afternoon. But yeah, it'll just be nice to see a Star Wars movie in the theaters again, an original story. I mean, to your point, the last one was Rise of Skywalker, and that was, I mean, by the time Mando and Grogu hit, it'll be like, what'll it be, like 6.5 years?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And to prove that we're getting old, it doesn't feel that long to me. It really doesn't. So
no, it doesn't. No, not at all.
Yeah,
it's bizarre. But yeah, so that's Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like with a big film budget. They've done amazing work with the volume and all that stuff, but volume has its limitations, and I really hope that this isn't just a budget movie where they're like, well, we're just going to film it like the TV show, except we get to charge a ticket price for it.
Oh, geez. Chastity was in a car accident. Sorry to derail us for a second. She says, I got in a very, very minor car accident, but still shaken up. So I'm sitting at my sister-in-law's and finally feel calm. Well, glad everything's okay.
Yeah. Glad you're okay there. That's horrible.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, glad that was very minor, Chastity. And no money out of your pocket for your car, hopefully. So look at Zamian. Mandalorian with the money signs.
Yep.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
That's fine. And okay, so that's one thing about putting this on the big screen. Like I was talking about how I don't think we're going to get stuff like Jack Black and Lizzo in The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
so all the weird asides and things that just didn't belong in the show, I don't think they're going to make time for that in the movie. And I'm loving that.
I'd like to amend my prior statement about having big name actors not throwing it out. Like that is the caveat to that. That was very off-putting. I've never gone, oh my God, that's Ewan McGregor. Oh my God, that's Ryan Gosling. Oh my God, that's Bill Burr, or whatever. Like the Bill Burr thing was kind of, oh, that's Bill Burr, hilarious. He's in Star Wars. But I went, Jack Black and Lizzo. What the hell? Yeah, Nick Hall. You don't want Flea kidnapping a kid on the big screen, AJ? Yep. Flea was. See, even Flea didn't really set me off too much, Nick. You know what? Because he was in the Back to the Future movies. So I was like, all right, Flea's an actor. That's cool. And I know that Jack Black's an actor and stuff, but he's just
he's just Jack Black, though.
Yeah.
If he shows up in anything, he's just Jack Black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't. I don't know. That was off-putting. But anyways, let's stick to the
he makes a great voice actor. If you don't see him, it's fine. Like awesome Bowser. Loved him in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Worked great as, Kung Fu Panda. But as soon as his face shows up, I'm like, you're just Jack Black. That's all I see.
The funniest role I thought he ever did was when he was the older brother in Orange County. And no one remembers that movie.
It's going back a ways. Like,
yeah.
Was that like late 90s?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but it was like he was like a total just loser, and he was just so lazy. It was just hilarious. And he has one of my all-time favorite movie quotes. The brother's trying to get into college, and Jack Black's sitting there in his underwear on the couch, and he's like, "Man, you're overreacting. I mean, I didn't get into college, and check me out. I'm kick-ass." I was like, "That's awesome, man." Like, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, I actually okay. So, and then we'll get back on topic. I liked him in the King Kong movie that nobody likes, like the 3.5 hour one. The Peter Jackson one. I thought he was really good in that too.
Yeah. In fact, that's the weird thing that's hard for him is he's so known for being a comedian that when he does dramatic stuff, you're waiting for the comedy that doesn't come.
Yeah.
And that's why it ends up being a better role, because I think we just don't think he's funny.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same way. It's one of those I'm trying way too hard types of things. And it's just like Rob Riggle. I cannot stand Rob Riggle. I just yeah. But in any case, moving on back to Star Wars.
Okay, so moving on back to Star Wars. Okay, so let's move on to the Disney Plus stuff. So we've got Ahsoka season 2, which apparently starts filming like this weekend for release next year. They showed was it Rory McCann, I think is the guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Game of Thrones guy who's been recast for Balin Skull. Looks pretty good actually in the costume. Like when you compare the actors side by side, you know, he doesn't look like Ray Stevenson in real life, but when you put him in the right costume, he does a pretty fair job of looking like the part. You know, it's unfortunate, but you got to recast. I'm sorry. Like it's tragic that Ray Stevenson died, but
yeah,
you know, what are you going to do? Write the character out when he was in the middle of a major storyline? No. So someone's got to do it. It's like, you know, you got to have Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies. So I'm sorry the first actor died, but you'll do the best you can and move on.
Right.
Now, this is something I wanted to ask you about with the Ahsoka season 2, because Dave Filoni has already said that 4 episodes of the 8, so same episode count as the first season, are going to be dedicated to a major battle between Thrawn and Akbar. And
Thrawn and Akbar, I did not hear that.
Yeah, I need to rewatch the first season because apparently Akbar was in it. I don't remember that.
Interesting.
I mean, he in the timeline it makes sense, but my question to you is this. This is the problem with these interquill stories where we've got the sequel trilogy and the Resistance and the First Order, and that's like the next big conflict as far as we know after the Galactic Civil War. So we've got this Ahsoka series now that's in between those two things, and we're going to have this gigantic battle with Thrawn taking on. There you go. Exactly. There's Roy McCann doing Balin Skull. Looks pretty respectable. He doesn't quite have the stature of Ray Stevenson. He's a little bit skinnier dude, but still.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good. And also, I haven't seen enough Game of Thrones to only be able to see him as the Game of Thrones dude. So
I wouldn't know about that. Never saw a second of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Which and that's my thing too, is I haven't seen it enough to really be spoiled by his appearance. But yeah, so we've got this major battle between Thrawn and Akbar. So Thrawn's going to, take on the New Republic. Do you think that this might cause a bit of a continuity problem? Like this fact that like they're writing new events in between these two trilogies that sound pretty damn important, but not important enough that anyone ever brings them up.
No, I at this point,
it's like the Ahsoka problem,
What, that the show exists?
No, I mean the character. That she's never brought up in the movies, but she is a central character to Anakin's life. And the way they wrote off Clone Wars, she was talking to Anakin just days before his fall to the dark side.
Well, but here's think of it this way.
And where the hell was she during the Galactic Civil War anyway?
Alive somewhere.
Yeah, alive and just not participating. Apparently, she sat that one out. That.
Yeah, I'm bored. I'm
gonna help build the Rebel Alliance, but I'm not actually gonna be in the Rebel Alliance.
She's just an architect. She doesn't actually work in the building once it's raised. Yeah, I think for me, I've really enjoyed even the shows I haven't liked. I've really enjoyed the writing, so I'm not worried about it. They've built up a lot of cred with me. They got a lot of extra brownie points in reserve because I think the writing's been fantastic. And I mean, dude, think about it this way. Like they could be writing all this stuff as, it's happening alongside things that we've already seen. And then they could have projects going forward that actually bring it together. So that's still in the pipeline. I mean, and I honestly, I think that'd be pretty brilliant because you're introducing all this new stuff, but then you also get to bring it together, and then you get to introduce the legacy stuff with it, and fans are going to go absolutely bananas if something like that happens. They'd be like, "Oh, I love the Ahsoka stuff. I love the Ahsoka stuff. Holy crap! Here's prequel crap and original trilogy crap. Like along with my Ahsoka stuff." So, I think they've done a great job of doing that sort of thing. And with Kevin, how involved is Kevin Feige with all this? I mean, is it just he's doing one movie, isn't it? Or I mean,
he's basically non-existent as far as I know.
Okay. I know he was doing the one movie, but maybe they twisted his ear a little bit, or picked his brain a little bit as to the Marvel Infinity Saga, and maybe they're doing that where it's like all these different things that culminate into some massive thing.
Well, that is the Dave Filoni culmination movie for all the Disney Plus series. Yeah. But again, how important can those events be that they're never spoken of again?
Well, see, I don't worry about that stuff, dude, because like you can't explain everything. And you can't just not tell a story like you said. Is it a continuity problem? You can't not tell. Oh well, that wouldn't make sense. The continuity, the fans are gonna notice. It's like no. Tell the story and then figure out how to unpaint yourself out of that corner. Like so, I don't have a problem with any of that. I trust them that they'll do it well. I mean, honestly, for as much as we crap on the poor execution of the sequel trilogy in terms of the story, I think it might have been one of the best things that could have happened to him, because I think it made it clear to everyone involved in Star Wars, like, you need a story here. You can't just go, we'll figure it out, because it turns shitty real fast. Yeah, and I love the sequel trilogy, but that incoherent story is not good.
And I think that's why Sean Levy chose to put his movie 5 years after Rise of Skywalker, because he went on record saying that basically the weight of all the continuity in canon was just crushing from a script writing standpoint. Like, what stories can I tell? There's so much crap I have to be aware of. How do you get around that? Well, you just move it on to another part of the timeline that has not been painted in yet.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. Otherwise, you then have to go back and do endless rewrites or tie this character in or don't contradict this thing, or I don't know how anyone keeps it straight. We love our Star Wars. There's no way in hell we could write any. If you tell us like, write us a story between episodes 3 and 4, we'll be like, nope, can't do it. There's way too much shit that's going on in books and comics and TV shows and movies at this point that we can't keep track of all that stuff.
I would just write it and then have people go, oh, that happened, this happened, that's this. There's all kinds of things that you could figure out somehow. I mean, they're doing it right now with Andor. It's the birth of the rebellion. It's a story that hasn't been told. But just there's also a bunch of other pockets of the rebellion out there. So
and look at how they handled that in the first season. It was basically its own thing. It was kind of in a vacuum. They purposely didn't reference a whole lot of what else was going on in the galaxy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and dude, look, you basically just wrote our show for us, because what we would do is we would write a story about where Ahsoka's been and why she's not doing shit with, for the rebellion and all that kind of stuff that she helped to create. It would just be Ahsoka's vacation. She'd be like on like a beach or something, and like just kind of like tuning into the intergalactic news, and be like, oh, another skirmish and all these rebels died and this, and she's like, fuck this. Yeah, I'm staying on the beach. I'm getting drunk. Like, I'll come.
I wonder if they're going to address any of this in Ahsoka season 2. They got World Between Worlds and all these other ways to like do flashbacks and whatnot. I wonder if they're actually going to like address, why weren't you handling that whole like, let's blow up the Death Star thing?
Yeah. Or maybe they'll just do a whole bunch of special editions again and just add all that shit in. And then all the people that hate the special editions will go back.
Quinlan Voster into like the cantina or something.
Exactly.
She's just sitting at one of the tables, and then she'd be like, Luke's got it.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's with him.
You know what would be great if they did that? is that all the people that hate the special editions that I argue with on a regular basis, you know what they would say if they added all this stuff in there, like Ahsoka into episode 4 and all this crap? They would go, you know what? Those special editions aren't that bad. All it is just now that I look at it, it's just a bunch of extra graphics. And I'll be like, I told you so. It would vindicate me. It would vindicate me, man. That'd be great. Look at so a couple good comments here. John Phillips says, I wouldn't trust Feige with Star Wars. His track record since taking full control after Endgame has not been anywhere near what it was before Endgame. I'll give you that, John. We've been very vocal that the whole multiverse thing is. The only thing I would say to that is that he's kind of bound by characters that already exist. And so, as we've said, like he's drafting from a C and D list of Marvel characters, whereas in Star Wars, you can just create new people and go, hey, here's a guy you never heard of. You know, like Balin Skull, for example, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, without getting too sidetracked, I think the Disney influence on Star Wars and Marvel has a lot to do with the current state of both franchises. They were both pressured by the previous CEO to announce a whole bunch of crap to drum up fan interest long before they had any business announcing it. So hopefully that's been course corrected. We'll see.
You would think. I mean, they've already screwed up too many times with that. So and Nick Hall says, I'd write Weekend at Greedos. I love it. They've just got him up on winches and pulleys, like making him like oh, Juta Solo.
Right.
That'd be awesome. All right. So anyways, moving on back stay on target.
Right.
We really need a sounder, like a sound effects bumper.
We need Steve back. He's got the Steam Deck. He can or Stream Deck.
He does.
Whatever that button thing is, it like makes things happen. Anyway, Steam Deck is totally different. We're not playing video games on this show. Anyway, yeah. So Ahsoka season 2 goes in front of cameras this week. So that's cool. So we got some new Ahsoka coming, and then the other live action show. Come on, now I'm blanking out. Help me out. Bail me out here, buddy.
Other live action show?
Oh, sorry. The other one that they talked about, of course, was Andor season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Andor season 2.
Yeah. So they showed the first episode or first 3 episodes at Celebration before they came out to the public. So yeah, so they got information on that too. So you're already got like 4 major projects that you got updates or announcements on at the Celebration. Like that's a good celebration. That's exactly what Celebration is for. Those people got the first looks. We haven't. I don't even know where to go to get like leaked footage of the trailer. For example, they did like a teaser for Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't even know where that exists, but I know that they had one. I did catch one still image of a ship with the Anzellans. So Grogu is like crammed in the back. So he looks gigantic in this tiny little ship, which is hilarious. Love that. So there's some exclusive looks just for the Celebration crowd, which is exactly how it should be. Of course, that vocal minority on the internet says, well, they should release it to everybody. What the hell? Why don't only people in attendance get it? I'm like, because they're in attendance. They paid a shitload of money to be there. That's what they get for their money.
Yeah, it's we can tell you emphatically as people that spend a lot of money to go to Celebration. If they were to show the panels live, you know, I mean, the hotels I'm looking at, I mean, we're going to be spending like $2,500 to $3,000 for the week we're going to be there for one hotel room. Like if I'm spending that much money and airfare and food and, you know, things like that, and they're just going to give somebody sitting on their ass at home the exact same panel that I spent all that money to see, I am not going to be pleased.
Yeah.
I'm going to
now, if they want to sell some sort of a digital pass, they want to charge some sort of money for online access where you do get to see that stuff. Okay. All right, you're still putting skin in the game, then you get something, but not like everything, not the in-person experience. But if all you want to do is see the panels, or you know, whenever they black out the feed because now they're going to show something exclusive for the in-person audience, sure, okay,
yeah,
I'm good with that.
I mean, I would hope they would make it kind of pricey though, not to be kind of cheap about it, but you can't be like, oh, you can get a 4-day pass to Celebration for $300, or you get the digital pass for $100. Like, no, that's not cost prohibitive. It isn't. I mean, some people will complain, "Oh, that's too much." It's like, well, no, fuck you. You want to know what's too much? Is $2,500, $2,500 to $3,000 for a hotel room, on top of $300 or $400 for the pass, on top of $500 for my round trip airfare if I'm lucky, on top of eating takeout meals 3 times a day or 2 times a day for that's cost prohibitive. $100 to sit on your ass and watch Celebration and not spend all that money is not cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear it, man. Like it's and that kind of leads us into what you were talking about, people complaining about the convention itself. And I mean it's not, I don't think there's anything new that we saw people bitching about. Oh, there he is, my dude Kiato. Nice. John Kiato, what's up, man? He says, "Can't wait to see you guys." Dude, dude, he's one of my favorite guys. I said that the other night on the virtual Cantina show I was on. But Kiato rules, man. He and I just always have such a good time bullshitting. Can't wait to see you either, man. And you got to be happy it's damn near in your backyard. So that's handy for you. No
you were
travel
busy
problems
watching
for you.
the live streams from Celebration. I was busy scrolling through the Virtual Cantina Network page on Facebook, looking at all the awesome pictures and getting choked up, just seeing like the positive vibes and everything, and all the people that we know in person, and seeing them go and having the best time of their lives over there in Japan, which was awesome. So,
yeah. All right. So where do you want to go next?
Yeah. This is the thing. Like this light celebration has so much news. We've still got more to get through. So we're gonna lightning round the animation stuff. The five that I counted. Visions season 3. I know we're not anime fans, so not a big deal for us. But okay. Then they announced a manga. Was it a manga or an anime? No, I think it was an anime. They took one of the shorts from Visions and they're going to make a series of it. So that's the second animated series. Then in addition to that, there's Tales of the Underworld. They showed an episode of that, which everybody gets on May 4th. So there's three animated things right there. We'll save the best for last. So they announced another season of Young Jedi Adventures. And that's the final season. So that one's wrapping up. So that gets 3 seasons. Okay. So there's 4 animated projects they've talked about. And then the big one. You know what I'm talking about. You want to announce it?
Yeah. Let's just do it. There we go. Maul Shadow Lord.
Yes.
There we go. I was.
How awesome is this one gonna be?
I had a teeny bit of when I found out it was animated instead of live action, but I'm still gonna watch the shit out of it. So yeah,
really?
That's pretty. Well, dude, you know me. I mean, I like live action better than I do like the animation stuff.
I do too, but I feel like Darth Maul basically has made that jump to being more of an animated character than a live action character at this point. So much more of his story has been told there, and Sam Witwer has been the guy that really embodies him. So as cool as it would be to see Ray Park do his thing again, I think at this point it's more important to hear Sam Witwer do the voice than it is to see Ray Park portray the character.
But it would still be Sam Witwer's voice. I mean,
they're not going to do a whole show where he's dubbing over Ray Park's dialogue.
Why not? If they have live action Darth Maul. By the way,
it's fine for like one scene at the end of Solo, but they're not going to do that for a whole show.
Well, maybe they could.
So Nick Hall, no, this is going to take place between Clone Wars and Rebels, which puts it's a very large time window, but that puts it in the same time period that Solo happened. Okay. So this could show how he takes over Crimson Dawn. It might be all entirely after, when he's working with Kira much more closely. So who knows? But there are some big questions. Like, he was running Crimson Dawn last we saw him in live action in Solo, and then he's this shell of a man who's been dumped on Malachor, or or stranded on Malachor by the time he shows up in Rebels.
Yeah.
So,
by the way,
how
real
does that
quick,
happen?
For our audio viewers, Nick Hall's question was, is this going to be pre-Phantom Menace? So, anyways, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I'm with him. And he also says, thank you for the clarification. Let's see Crimson Dawn. Yeah, I mean, AJ, to your point, yeah, like he's basically going to be, a hobo kind of at the end of this, if that's the time period. Or at least getting into that sort of thing. And that leads up to the worst duel / death in all of Star Wars, of course. All what did we determine it was, like 1.8 seconds or 3.8, whatever it was. Anyway,
Terrible.
whole other topic.
Terrible. So I have
Awful.
2 questions.
Unwatchable.
2 questions. One about this is a detail they left out, which was kind of conspicuous. They did not say anything about, well, 1, when it was coming out, or 2, how long of a series this is. Is this like an open-ended thing, or is this like you get 8 episodes and we're done, like a Kenobi miniseries kind of thing, or that was actually 6 episodes, wasn't it? Anyway, is it a limited series or is it an open series with multiple seasons potentially planned? We don't know. The other thing is, it's the first time we've gotten a show based around a villain. It's really hard to do a show based around a villain without turning them into the protagonist. Miranda and I were talking about this. The only thing we can think of is like Maleficent. And what did they immediately do? They made Maleficent a sympathetic character. You can't have your main character of your show be someone that the audience is rooting against.
Yeah.
So I wonder how they're going to work that. If there's going to be like a hero character that we're going to follow and Maul's going to be the foil to that character, or if somehow they're going to paint Maul in a sympathetic light. I don't know.
Is this where we get more Ahsoka and find out what the hell she was doing?
I mean, Dave Filoni's head of creative now, so yeah, I'm going to assume yes.
Yeah, anywhere we can wedge Ahsoka in. And by the way, to be clear, whenever we make Ahsoka jokes, totally fine with the character. The character of Ahsoka is awesome. I personally, I'm just not a fan of the show.
At this point, she's had so many chapters of her life told, though. She is the most prolific character in all of Star Wars, I think.
You know what, dude? I think I would disagree with that, because she has had that stuff told, but to me, it feels like it's in smaller bits. It's not
because she hasn't been in a movie.
I don't think it's that. I just feel like, I mean, obviously she was, one of the main 3-4 characters in Clone Wars, which is enormous.
So there's 7 seasons of that.
I mean, she's,
4 seasons of Rebels. She was in 3 of them, I think.
Yeah, but her part in Rebels was small. The whole Fulcrum thing, like that was kind of, it wasn't big to me.
She's like got 3 episodes of Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I stand corrected. I don't know. It just it just doesn't feel. It just kind of feels like they kind of bring her in and out here and there. It's not like this constant Luke Skywalker is everywhere or Han Solo is everywhere type of deal. You know what I mean? Like, I
think that's what this is. Okay, good. Okay, so we can move on from here. Sorry, it's already going 1 hour and 19, so we want to get on to another topic, and this is a good segue. We've been dancing around this the entire show, so I want to just like move on to it now at this point.
Okay.
The issue, I think what you're getting at is Ahsoka doesn't feel like a main character because she's never shown up in any of the films. She's never been part of the Skywalker saga directly. Like she's not in anything from episodes 1 through 9. She does not exist in those movies.
No, I don't think that's it. But I mean, keep going with your point. But I don't think that's it for me. But keep going.
And one of the major complaints about Celebration Japan and all the stuff that they've announced, and the reason it didn't feel like it felt anticlimactic to a lot of people, they said that there's this scattershot approach to Star Wars now, where we used to have the Skywalker saga. If something big was happening, it was attached to the story that would be told in episodes 1 through 6, and then now 1 through 9. There is no central story to Star Wars now. So we've got this Ahsoka thing over here. We've got Skeleton Crew over here. We've got the High Republic doing its own thing before episode 1. And we've got, Shadow Lord and all these other things. And they're just kind of like, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story. There's no trunk to the tree. And the criticism that triggered this whole thing was that got me wanting to talk about it is the podcast I mentioned said that The Last Jedi is to blame for all of this. Because like you were talking about, the sequel trilogy needs a consistent story. By not having a cohesive story through 7 through 9, because they didn't write it first, they just told JJ to make episode 7, and he did his usual thing of being like, here's a bunch of fun questions, you figure it out. And then we got what we got. Do you feel like there's any validity in this statement? Like, without a Skywalker saga or some like pillar around which everything else rotates, do you feel like it's hard to get too invested in any Star Wars story because they're just all there?
No, because
greater impact or significance.
No, because it'll tie in. I mean, they've proven they can do it. At least, Filoni and Favreau. I mean, they can do it. I don't have any doubt about that. I don't have any doubt about that. And to say that The Last Jedi is to blame, no. If anybody's to blame, it is J.J. Abrams, because The Last Jedi could have been the jumping off point. That's what it did. It did a George Lucas thing, as we've said so many times. It took a chance. It told a new story. It took it in a different direction. And then J.J. Abrams came back and just went, no, it's this. And shoehorned it in. She's a Palpatine. Here's the Emperor. Okay, well, yeah. So there goes going in a new direction. So yeah, no, I don't. I don't worry about it. I really don't. And I don't agree that The Last Jedi is the catalyst to people saying it's scattershot. Again, I said it earlier in the show. I think the writing has been excellent. Even in things that I don't particularly enjoy, I still think the writing was very good. So I trust that they're going somewhere with this. And honestly, I mean, look what's happening with Marvel.
Even though that they're not, or at least they weren't.
But do we know that? I mean, they've got this stuff planned like years in advance, dude.
Well, when the Skywalker saga ended, I mean, that is the core of Star Wars. The core of Star Wars was the Skywalker saga. 7, 8, 9 really are kind of add-ons themselves.
Yeah.
But at least it was still trying to continue on the main story thread that makes the whole universe exist.
Yeah.
And then they ended that. So there's nothing tying all the stories together other than the fact that they all just exist in that galaxy. But Marvel's felt directionless because there hasn't been an Avengers movie since Endgame. You're like, all right, well, we got all these movies, but like, where's it heading? Is there any culminating event? And the answer was no. And then when they realized it, they're like, oh shit, Robert Downey Jr., you're doomed. We're doing a pair of Avengers movies like now.
Yeah. Well, but I think Star Wars has learned from that. I mean, it's they're both under the Disney umbrella, and Disney is sensitive to fan criticism and fan reaction. Hence, goodbye Acolyte, unfortunately. Goodbye Solo 2. And so they're aware, and to the point you just made, they're aware of the waning interest in the MCU, and I'm sure they're aware that it's because of what you and I've said all along. Like, what the hell is this multiverse crap? Like, it's like there's just a million different things that could happen. There's no central anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having heard that criticism, they're not going to do the same thing with Star Wars. So
I feel like they are to an extent. Like, okay, so Marvel does the multiverse thing, which means no one has any stakes because there's always just another version of that character out there. Infinite versions, literally. Star Wars is kind of the same, but without the multiverse. They're just like, well, it's a big galaxy. Anything can happen anywhere. So if we're done with that story, we'll just go tell this one over here with a whole new batch of characters. There's always more evil empire or first order. We're just going to throw different people at them. So it is hard to feel like there's a direction right now, other than the Filoniverse that they're building towards. But again, that exists between chapters of the Skywalker saga, and that is the central core of Star Wars. So how important can it really be? Do they need to keep chaining things onto the Skywalker saga for it to feel like it's on par in importance?
That's a good question. I kind of think so.
I mean, the central conflict of the Skywalker saga is who's in charge and who's trying to get them out. And when they're not telling that story, it feels like there's a bigger one out there not being told, doesn't it?
Well, but I think, I mean, yes, you're not wrong. But I think the other part of the Skywalker saga is the Jedi. And if you look at like Ahsoka, like the focus is not on her Jedi stuff. Mando and Grogu, they bring in Luke Skywalker.
I'll say with Ahsoka, the focus is not on Ahsoka.
Yeah,
she's just a character in a larger story. I don't know why the hell they named it after her.
Right.
The Kenobi is about Obi-Wan. It's about his journey. So that makes sense. But Ahsoka is not about Ahsoka. Ahsoka is just Rebels live action.
Yeah. I think that, to me, the Skywalker saga is like very heavily Jedi invested. And so I think they kind of need that because there hasn't been a lot of that. They've gotten away from it, but I think it's definitely a major issue because, I mean, think about it. I mean, it's right there. It's the lowest of low hanging fruits. Rey's going to resurrect the Jedi Order. Okay. Now you've got the Jedi Order back. So who's the opposition? So you're basically reigniting this thing for a whole new set of stories. So I think it does have to come into play. That's why I think the Rey story is not a one-off. There's going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12. I would bet money on that.
Yeah, the Jedi are what makes Star Wars unique. It's so core to what makes Star Wars special was this whole like, oh my God, it's space wizards with laser swords. That's weird. I'll watch that. As much as I love Andor and Rogue One and like the grounded approach, seeing regular dudes doing everyday things in Star Wars is only novel because the Jedi existed first.
Yeah.
If there were no Jedi, then it would just be shit we've seen before in other sci-fi franchises.
Yeah, I totally agree. But no, I honestly, dude, it doesn't worry me. It really doesn't worry me. Like all right. So John Phillips says they need Luke Skywalker, not as a central character, but in the universe.
To your point about Jedi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick Hall, by the way, to the point of the Marvel thing, he says incursions for Marvel. Multiverse leads to incursions. Incursions leads to Secret Wars. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's okay. Yeah, I don't think that they're doing anything aimlessly. I really don't.
I think they were. Well, I purposely use past tense. I think they didn't know where to go with the franchise after the Skywalker saga, especially the way it ended on a wet fart.
Right.
It was Rise of Skywalker wasn't well received, so anything they were setting up with their version of Star Wars with the First Order and the Resistance, they were just like, well, that's toxic, so we can't do that. Now what? And then we got Mandalorian, which was in development, obviously, when Rise of Skywalker was, because it came out the same year.
Yeah.
And they've kind of been milking that for all it's worth at this point. Like, there was another comment from Nick Hall up above said, isn't Mando the current center of the Star Wars universe? And I think, yeah.
I would agree
like
with that.
after the Skywalker saga concluded, it was Mandalorian, everything Mandalorian. Is that enough to sustain the franchise, though? Is that a big enough story to sustain the franchise?
It depends on what you can branch off of it. I mean, that's always the case. You know, what can you know, what
I think by setting it between 6 and 7 in the timeline, it can only get so big before it's awkward.
Okay. Well, but I mean, the character of Grogu, I mean, if you're going to have Rey resurrect the Jedi Order and you've got Baby Yoda in there's your tie-in. Like there's your thread. So, by the way, John Chiato says, I think AJ is onto something. A lot of stuff feels piecemeal, which isn't bad for hardcore Star Wars fans, but it's hard for new fans to hop on. Too much bouncing around the timeline. Yeah.
Yes, that much is true. I remember when Ahsoka season 1 came out, I had people asking me like, so where does this fit in exactly?
Yeah.
Because they weren't really clear on it either, especially if you hadn't seen Rebels first.
I'll be honest, I get lost sometimes as to where these things happen. I know they're, it's pre-sequel or, whatever, or, Clone Wars something, but I get lost in it, admittedly. John Phillips, this is interesting. He says, or better yet, they need George Lucas. They need George Lucas as an idea man, and then they need other people to shave off the stuff that is not good. Because he has said a few times now that his idea for the sequel trilogy involved delving really deeply into the midichlorian thing. And fans would have absolutely just annihilated that. I mean, that was one of the least popular things in all of Star Wars, was the whole midichlorian thing. And then to do a whole trilogy of movies about that, like, oof, I don't know. But I think he's definitely got some great ideas. So
the Star Wars franchise is going to outlive George Lucas.
Yeah.
To just be blunt about it. So you can't rely on him too much because he's only going to be around for so long.
Yeah.
Overall, I'll say this. I like Dave Filoni being head of creative because he's the closest thing to George Lucas as we're going to get. He studied under the master for how many years? And he's got a whole lot of insights that none of us do that George shared with him. And overall, I like his ideas, but if you don't, you're just shit out of luck because you're just going to get every Dave Filoni idea that he's got. That's why Ahsoka pops up everywhere, because the guy who created Ahsoka is in charge of everything. So
yeah,
if he wants Ahsoka in it, she's going to be in it.
Yeah. I mean, I like most of his stuff. It's, I have no problem with it. I mean, he's got a couple absolutely horrific ideas, obviously, all joking aside, that the Purgle and the World Between Worlds I hate.
I knew exactly where you were going with those.
But I mean, there are certain things that I think are really stupid. But that having been said, those are two things out of like a million. So I think he's done great. And honestly, like he's resurrected Star Wars. I mean, the Clone Wars kind of ushered in, this huge renaissance. And, you had the prequels and stuff like that, and people loved it. But what we have now is really kind of based off of the Clone Wars cartoon, because it proved that a long-form TV show is successful with fans. So that was kind of, in a way, you'd have to think a little bit of the genesis of the idea of Disney Plus, to make Star Wars, at least live action Star Wars shows, because like, hey, people will pay attention to this. There's an audience for this. And the stuff that he did was of high enough quality to where they could do all this other stuff.
Well, remember, Dave ran it, but George is the one who was in charge of it.
Yeah.
So that was a George Lucas joint right up until he sold to Disney, and then Disney was the one saying no more Clone Wars.
Oh, I don't know how much longer.
They had what, 2 more seasons written, 2 or 3 more seasons of episodes written, and that just never went anywhere because Disney pulled the plug.
And I'm wondering, and we'll close up shop here pretty soon here, but I'm wondering if that is somewhat the case with Andor. Like, how much did they have written, and now they had to pare it down? A lot.
Yeah. Which, by the way, guys, we didn't cover Andor season 2 tonight, specifically because we will be covering the entire season in its entirety 2 episodes from now. So
yeah,
with such a short season runtime, we were like, if we cover it tonight and talk about the first 3 episodes, then it's only going to be one more episode before we're talking about it again. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Underwhelmed.
Yeah, so what's your hope for the future of Star Wars? We're talking about Celebration 2027. What do you think is going to be like the tent pole of Star Wars at that time?
My boner that I'm going to walk around with all week because I'm in Atlanta. Oh, sorry.
God damn it! I knew you were going there. I friggin' knew it.
It was too obvious. It was too obvious. See, this is why we're the black sheep of the Virtual Cantina Network, because the Wednesdays that we're off, Daughters of the Galaxy are on, and they're talking about all this awesome social justice stuff and very well spoken and well thought out, intelligent social commentary. And then I'm over here talking about walking around with a boner for a week at Star Wars Celebration because I'm so excited about Star Wars.
Yeah. We make it awkward for everybody who's going to meet you at Celebration now, by the way.
That's all good. I'll wear baggy pants.
God.
But, would it be? Never mind. Anyway.
No, please continue with the dick jokes. That's what everyone tunes in for.
You've done worse on this show. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I honestly, dude, I don't know, and I think that's what makes it exciting for me, because I think there are so many things they could pull from that we've got 2 years to get some clarity. And that could be what this whole celebration is about. Everything that's where we're going to get our answers. That could be a whole bunch of unanswered questions finally answered in, LA the first week of April 2027. Because you're going to have Mando and Grogu. A month and a half after that, Starfighter is going to come out, so we're going to find out everything that we haven't already found out about Starfighter. Any future movies, especially if they're going to do one in 2028, we're going to find out about that. Television shows, and I think we're going to have a lot more clarity. And again, if we haven't gotten it by then, you damn sure know that they're going to do it at Celebration, or else it is a massively missed opportunity. So I don't know what it's going to be, but I think we're going to get an answer as to the overall direction of Star Wars. So I think it's going to be massively, massively important what we find out there, not just a news dump or a product dump. So
and for me, I'm excited to find out if we're going to be still hanging on to characters from the Skywalker saga to anchor the franchise, or if, like has been said, the Mandalorian is a big enough character to be that anchor for the franchise. So is it going to be a movie character we already have seen, or have they written something that is truly new to the franchise and now can propel it forward from there?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, man. I like that there's so much out there to choose from. So I'm very happy about that. It's not like there's already a set direction and there's like 1 or 2 shows, and some of the fans like it, some of them don't. Like, I mean, I think Star Wars is thriving, and I think one of the things you're kind of noticing is they've kind of learned from their mistakes as time has gone on. So I think we've been offered a little more clarity lately. So I think that's good. Things are actually confirmed to be happening. It's like you said, it's not just announcing here's 18 projects and then 16 of them fall by the wayside. It's, no, these are happening.
Yeah, any perceived slowdown in the production of Star Wars is a good thing, because they're like, we're not going to talk about it unless it's real.
Yeah. No, and I
don't care
love
about
that.
The 37 ideas you have that might happen. I care about the 4 ideas you have that are happening.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's just it's a very interesting time, I think. And so, when people say, to your point earlier about the celebration being light on news or whatnot, I don't think that it was. I mean, it's a short a day, and it may not have been everything people want, but I think it was a good setup. And like you said, there's 5 animated shows and a couple, live action shows and this, that, and the other. So yeah, I thought they gave us a good setup for the next couple of years leading into what is going to be the most consequential celebration since Celebration 1. And that
and there was a time that Celebration was literally about a movie or the movies, because Clone Wars didn't even exist yet. Now we're like, we only got 9 things to watch.
Well,
okay, or complain a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, and dude,
we're eating good. We're eating good is the point.
Yeah, in 2022, there really wasn't anything. It was just, hey, Star Wars is cool. There wasn't that major product that was, and it was still fun. And now we've got all this stuff to tie together. So, I mean, what's not to like? We have 2 years of hype, 2 years of buildup, and we know we're going to get something major. At the very least, the very least, celebrating 50 years of Star Wars is going to be an absolute fucking blast. So, all right. Well, you want to jump out of here on that note? And
I think we should close up shop.
All right. Well, on that note, then we will close up shop. So, everybody, thank you very much for tuning into another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Glad to be back. AJ, thank you very much for covering me 2 weeks ago. I was quite a bit laid up that Wednesday. That was not fun. So,
yeah, I'm glad that passed quickly, man.
Yeah, it was kind of. I've still got the ear infection, if not 2. But yeah, that's always good. But in any case, yeah, thanks for covering for me. I appreciate that. We are going to be right back here. Let me do the math. 4th, 5th, 6th, on Wednesday, May 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And AJ, give me some credit. I stopped saying Eastern Standard Time because
I noticed that.
About that. I'm making an effort. I'm trying to remember things. But yeah, so we'll be right back here on Wednesday, May 7th. At 8 p.m. Eastern time. Guys, if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and smash the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Of course, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. You can get some awesome customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And you can get some killer Virtual Cantina Network gear at tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Yeah, great show, man. This was a blast talking about Celebration. And I had something else I was going to mention, and I don't remember what the hell it is. So we'll just, say, all right, there you go. We have a Patreon. I don't know, AJ, what's up with the Patreon?
Well, it's right down there in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. It's patreon.com/NHC podcast. All of our episodes go up there. They go up early. The audio versions go up early on Fridays for Patreon members there. We also have, that's just a $1 tier. For a $3 tier, you'll get a shout out on the show like our buddies Mark Thrasher and Joseph Wren. Thank you so much for that, guys. And I'm always down for more stuff. I have way more thoughts on Star Wars and other topics than can possibly fit into this show every other week. So for that purpose, we have our Discord channel, which is discord.nerfherdercouncil.com. Go ahead and join the Discord on there. We'll talk between shows and shoot the shit, guys.
Awesome. Well, before we jump out of here, big shout out to all of our fellow shows here on the Virtual Cantina Network. I was fortunate enough to be asked to jump on to do some Celebration news last Friday with Mark Van Olen and some of the other hosts on the network, and it was a total blast. So huge shout out to them. And don't forget to tune into the other amazing content that is right here on the Virtual Cantina Network. I believe, what are we, over 78,000 members now on the Virtual Cantina Network? So it's just growing and growing and growing. And no matter what kind of Star Wars you like, there's something for you right here on the Virtual Cantina Network. So especially our good friend John Chiato in the chat there. Love that guy. So all right, guys. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks on Wednesday, May 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, I am your host, JT. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579 on Blue Sky and X.
I almost cut you off. And guys, we'll catch you next time.